I'd like to welcome you to the special meeting of the Woodbridge Board of Selectmen on Tuesday, January 20th, 2015. Number one on the agenda is introduction and remarks by the first selectman. And before I get to the substance of this evening's meeting, I would like to welcome our selectman, Tony Anastasio. He is bionic. Many of you may not know that, but having had serious back surgery last week, he was at the Board of Selectmen on Wednesday, surgery on Thursday, and back tonight. So good work, Tony. We're very glad you're here. On other matters, this evening, we are taking the next step in the process of determining the outcome of the town-owned Country Club of Woodbridge property. This step is one of many that preceded it, and one of many that lie ahead. As a brief reminder, the property was purchased for $6.9 million in 2009 with the overwhelming support of the residents who attended the annual town meeting. It was the intention of the Board of Selectmen at that time, in recommending the purchase, that the property be developed, although the extent and the nature of the development was not then specified. It was important to the Board of Selectmen, however, that the development be within the control of the town. In 2011, residents overwhelmingly rejected a development proposal by Toll Brothers to build 54 townhomes on 17 acres for a net payment to the town of approximately $1.8 million. That number was a little bit fluid. Among the concerns of residents was the lack of public information and conversation about the proposal. In the years since 2009, owning the Country Club of Woodbridge property has proven to be quite costly for us. In addition to the considerable debt service, in some years we saw significant losses, and in one year they rose as high as $438,000. Based on the history and facts, I thought it most important to hear residents' visions and concerns about the property. Since I became first selectman in July of 2013, we have had nearly a dozen meetings where the Country Club of Woodbridge property was on the agenda, in many instances the sole topic on the agenda. We also had the consultants hired by the town to advise on the plan of conservation development conduct a parallel study of the Country Club of Woodbridge property in order to keep it moving apace. Two of the town meetings were in a community conversation format. The small group discussions were led by town residents who I had appointed to a Country Club of Woodbridge ad hoc committee. The members of the committee represent a wide range of backgrounds and political affiliations. Based on resident input and the consultant's recommendation, the town issued a request for proposals for development on the property. We received 2 responses. The members of the ad hoc committee who led the community conversations, plus 2 additional residents I asked to join the committee, agreed to continue their volunteer service to the town by reviewing the proposals when they came in and making a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. They made that recommendation in December. I take this opportunity to thank them very much again for their diligence and commitment to the undertaking. They are busy people who generously gave their time and very considerable competence to this important town task. With respect to the responses, I made the determination that they be temporarily treated as confidential. Technically, that meant a decision called a certification under the Freedom of Information Act that the public interest in confidentiality outweighs the public interest in disclosure for a limited period of time. Among the various factors that go into that decision, a very important one is keeping the proposals and discussions with each respondent confidential from the other. Tonight's special meeting of the Board of Selectmen was initially scheduled to be an executive session for the board to hear directly from the 2 respondents to the RFP. Executive session means that the public would not attend the session. An important change of circumstances, however, caused me to reevaluate the need for confidentiality. That change was that one of the respondents, it was a joint proposal by the Jonathan Rose Companies and Watermark Retirement Communities that had been referred to as bidder number 2, withdrew their proposal because of increases in their current workloads. Thus, Very importantly, there is now only one response for the Board of Selectmen and town residents to consider. As I noted earlier, while not the only criterion, a major factor in making the determination of confidentiality versus disclosure is keeping the proposals and discussions with each respondent confidential from the other. Clearly, that factor no longer applies, and after careful consideration, I concluded that the reasons for temporary confidentiality no longer outweigh the public interest in disclosure. To be clear, as I have explained on previous occasions, there has never been any question or doubt that all proposals and other documents relevant to the CCW property and RFP would be made public at the appropriate time. In light of the withdrawal of the second proposal, I have determined that tonight is the appropriate time because a Board of Selectmen executive session would not be justified. It is important for the public to know, and I reiterate for all of you here and anyone watching on TV, that the fact that we are having this meeting and that I intend to have several more meetings to vet this proposal does not in any way indicate that I or any other members of the Board of Selectmen endorse the plan that will be presented this evening. I believe it would be irresponsible, however, as the fiscal steward of the town, to deprive the residents of Woodbridge the opportunity to hear, review, question, and evaluate all aspects of the proposal, as would have been the case no matter the number of proposals. This is especially true in light of the substantive nature of this plan and the recommendation of the ad hoc committee. Although there is no public comment on this evening's agenda, I assure all town residents that there will be many opportunities after tonight's meeting to hear the proposal, ask questions, and voice your opinions. In addition, both proposals and the ad hoc committee's report will be on the town's website, I believe, live tomorrow. Betsy? Hopefully. Tomorrow. Our goal is first thing tomorrow. I am very aware that this matter engenders strong feelings among the members of our community. As we move forward with our broader discussion and conversations, I encourage everyone to keep our discourse fact-based and respectful of others' points of view. Tonight's presentation will be by Toll Brothers, or bidder number 1. The CCW Ad Hoc Committee report to the Board of Selectmen recommended that the board consider the Toll Brothers proposal for many reasons, including, in particular, its fiscal strength. The committee noted, and I quote, Toll is proposing a total purchase price of $7.5 million, $6.5 million of which would be paid at the closing. Toll will make an additional $1 million worth of improvements by demolishing the clubhouse, renovating the parking lot, tennis courts, and pool, and creating a small pool house with showers and bathrooms, all of which would be for public use. Again, there are many other reasons that the ad hoc committee reached this decision, and the report will be on the website hopefully by tomorrow. Given the potential significance of this proposal for our town and the recommendations of the ad hoc committee, I look forward to a robust, positive, and productive town discussion over the next weeks and months. And to continue now, I will turn this over to Toll Brothers to present and explain their proposal. Thank you.
So should we dim those lights? Let's see how much we need.
I'm going to watch from back there because it's too hard.
Sure.
And I think I'm also watching the public.
I think they wanted some of the lights out. I think.
Just the one, sir.
Is that good?
Yeah. Sure do. You all right?
Yep.
Lawrence. Sir. No, I just, you can't see him. Thank you.
Can everybody see?
You know, I should add one other fact, and that is that the Board of Selectmen have had this proposal since December, so that we've had time to look at it and consider it and come up with questions. It's not the first presentation. Thank you.
Okay. We certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here. My name is Jack Lanneman. I'm the Division President for Toll Brothers Connecticut. With me tonight are Eric Morissette to my right. He's our Land Acquisition Manager for Connecticut. And behind me is Greg Kamidolski. He's the Group President for New England. So I'm sure you're all very familiar with the property. It's bordered by Johnson Road, Ansonia Road, Woodfield Road, and some single-family homes to the south. It's approximately 155 acres. And when we received the town's request for proposal, the RFP, we gave it a lot of thought. We came up with several different proposals internally. We wanted to honor the town's commitment to open space. We wanted to maximize the town's return and the value for this beautiful piece of land. And lastly, we wanted to offer housing for Woodbridge's older residents, which brings me to our next slide. So it's no secret that the town of Woodbridge is an aging town. The town median age is 8 years older than the state median age. Your own draft plan of conservation and development, which I stress is a draft, implies that without new housing, the town could actually see a decrease in population over the next 10 years due to smaller households being on the rise. The plan also recommends that the town pursues development proposals for age-restricted lifestyle housing on Country Club of Woodbridge property, which may include higher density housing. It mentions that since the year 2000, the age structure of the town has continued to change. The town's median age of 47.6 has risen by 4.8 years between 2000 and 2010, an increase of over 11% in only a decade. Woodbridge's population has aged faster than most of its neighbors. Woodbridge is both older and aging faster than the state average. So that brought us to our proposal. Smaller homes with first-floor master bedrooms for the town's existing aging residents. We feel it's important for a town's community, for the active members of the community, to be able to stay in a town as they age, but as their mobility decreases. Brings us to our proposal. I'll also throw it up here. Maybe easier for somebody to see.
Try it on the easel.
Am I blocking?
No, I blocked it.
We'll leave it up after the presentation. So our proposal was for 170 homes throughout the interior of the Country Club property. We wanted to keep in character with the existing character of Woodbridge, and we proposed private roads with a minimum buffer of at least one golf hole from the homes on Johnson Road, Ansonia Road, and the homes to the south. We proposed buffer planting where the existing tree canopy is broken, and we worked where possible with the existing topography and saved as many trees as possible. Within the 170 homes, there's two different price points. The first price point are the attached carriage homes. Now, within these carriage homes, if you go to the next slide, Eric, we propose two different price points. There would be homes in the 2,200 to 2,600 square foot range, which we anticipate would sell from the low 400s to the low 500s, and that's the upper left-hand corner of the screen. And we also anticipate there would be smaller townhomes, which would be 1,500 to 2,000 square feet, which would sell from the mid 300s to the mid 400s. Some of these homes would be single level, but all of them would have first floor master bedrooms. The other half of the site, the western half of the site, would be detached homes. There's 3 sample homes here, but they would range in size from 1,800 to 2,500 square feet, and the estimated sales prices would be from the mid 400,000s to the mid 500,000s. Again, some would be single level, some would have small space on the second floor, but all of them would have first floor master bedrooms. On the interior of the site would be the amenity area. This would be for the Toll Brothers residents, and we've found that a strong amenity center is one of the best draws for selling homes. Within this center, do we have this? Yes. Within this center, we would have a clubhouse where the upper level would be a social area, the lower level would be a fitness area, and it would open to a pool. We also contemplate a tennis court, a bocce court, picnic areas, and trails throughout the community. Now, in speaking with the selection committee, they asked us to consider whether a 9-hole golf course would fit within our layout. We found that it does fit within our layout and actually fits quite well. We have some in-house golf experts who've studied this along with our landscape architects, and we would have to rework a few holes, and I'll just go through it quickly. I'm not sure if the town would want to pursue this avenue, but there are 5 holes where we would use the existing hole, and those are in green. It's a little hard for you all to see. So, hole number 1, right here, is existing hole 1. That would remain a par 5. Hole 2, right here, would be a brand new hole. Hole 3, which is the existing hole 15, we would flip the direction of it. Hole 4, which is currently hole 7, would be relocated slightly. Hole 5, which is the existing hole 8, would remain unchanged and just be renumbered. Hole 6 is a proposed new hole. That would run up this way and curve to the left. Hole 7, which is the former hole 12, would remain unchanged. Hole 8, which is the former hole 10, would remain unchanged. And then hole 9 is the existing hole 9, and that would remain unchanged and bring you back to the clubhouse area. Now, if the town were to pursue the 9-hole golf course option, either the town could retain it and have a third party manage it, or the town could sell it to a third party and have them manage it. The length of this course is, by the way, above average for 9-hole golf courses, slightly above average in terms of total yardage. So the details of our proposal. 170 age-restricted homes, 96 of them would be attached, 74 of them would be detached, and we would build a private clubhouse and pool in the center for the Toll Brothers residents. It would be $7.5 million cash at closing. For a reduction in purchase price of $1 million, Toll could construct the 9-hole golf course, which would include revised irrigation, cart paths, green locations. Some of the holes would not be removed, and as I mentioned, the town or a third party could continue to operate the golf course. We would demolish the existing country club clubhouse and construct a new smaller building, which would include a small pro shop and restrooms. The remainder of the amenity area, the parking, the pool, and the tennis areas would remain untouched. Another benefit of going with Toll Brothers is that we're an established home building company with the financial strength and the ability to perform. We have the wherewithal and the resources to do what we say. We have an outstanding local track record building homes in Connecticut. We've built over 2,000 homes across the state over the last 25 years, including 21 homes in Woodbridge approximately 12 years ago. We have finished every community we have started. We have never walked away. This proposal would retire the outstanding town of Woodbridge debt on the property. It would provide an alternative housing option for the aging population of Woodbridge that currently does not exist and is desperately needed. We feel that the site plan and the building architecture is very compatible with the town of Woodbridge. The rural character and the low density of approximately 1 per acre is certainly not high-density housing. And it provides a diversity of prices, with homes starting in the mid-300s and going up into the 500s. Because it is an age-restricted community, with no children allowed to live there permanently under the age of 18, there would be no impact on the school system. The private roads and sidewalks would be maintained by the homeowners association, not the town of Woodbridge. And yet, there's an estimated $2 million per year in tax generation in addition to the building permit fees. The town would retain 85 acres of open space, which, as we mentioned, could or could not be a 9-hole golf course. And if the town wanted, Toll Brothers could demolish and remove the existing unsafe clubhouse. In addition, we would be bringing utilities, gas, and others to the property which could benefit the neighbors. In discussions with the selection committee, we were asked to look at an alternative plan that was all detached homes. The plan you see in front of you is 100 homes. It's a similar road network. It would also work with a 9-hole golf course, but we could only pay $4.25 million for this layout. It's fewer homes. So I'm sure people wonder how this compares to the last time Toll Brothers was here in town. I wasn't part of that proposal. I'm not sure how many of you were, but I'm sure everyone's familiar with it, so we created a chart. The 2011 proposal was $1.8 million when you include the cell tower relocation. The current proposal is $7.5 million. The last proposal was 50% cash at closing, and the town would retain a mortgage that Toll would pay 2 years later on the other 50%. The current proposal is all cash at closing. There are 170 homes now versus 54, but it's over a lot more land. The purchase price per home has gone up from $33,342 to $44,118. There's still age-restricted homes. No school children would be allowed, but the buildings now have between 1 and 3 units versus 4 units in the previous proposal. The deposit was raised from $50,000 to $325,000. And let me bring up Greg Kamodolsky, who knows our track record in Connecticut better than anybody. He was the first Toll Brothers employee in the state back in the 1990s, and he'll speak briefly about our company.
Thank you, Jack. Just real briefly, just a couple points on what to follow up on what Jack said. What we're proposing here obviously is a housing choice for a lot of citizens that live in Woodbridge as well as outside of Woodbridge, but it's also a lifestyle change for a lot of people and a lot of empty nesters. Look, I'm an empty nester. My kids have moved out. And when that happens, something fundamentally happens and something different happens in your life. And the connectivity that you've had with a lot of townspeople goes away because you were connected with your kids to their kids, and that goes away. So a lot of people are not only seeking a different housing choice with masters on the first floor, it's a lifestyle change. where they don't have to maintain their yards and the outside of their home. That's done by an association now. There's an amenity, there's a clubhouse, and it's a place for this demographic to congregate, to make new friends, to meet people, to socialize, and it really has, as much as I say, a housing choice, it's a social / lifestyle choice. So I just wanted to bring that point up. Another point I'd just like to mention is who does the work for our construction. And we use for the most part, the vast majority of our subcontractors are state of Connecticut companies. And a fair number of them, in fact, are from the New Haven area. Our plumber, I think our electrician is from the New Haven area, so they're very local. We purposely try and do that. It works well for us. And I just wanted to bring that up, that a lot of our subcontractors, the vast majority of our subcontractors are local to Connecticut, local to the New Haven area. As Jack mentioned, not only are we paying a tremendous amount of money at closing to the town, but there's an huge annual economic benefit that's going to accrue to the town. It's $2 million net. The roads are private, so there's no road maintenance. There's no school children, so there's no burden on the schools. But there's a huge tax revenue that'll accrue to the town. I've been with Toll Brothers since 1992. I was the first employee for Toll in Connecticut and really in New York also. And I started our first community in southern Connecticut in 92, and it was in Southport, Connecticut. And since then, we've completed 36 communities. We've delivered over 2,000 homes in a variety of towns throughout the state, basically in all four corners of the state and in between. It's a track record that I'm proud of, that the company's proud of. We're not perfect. I don't pretend to be perfect. We don't pretend to be perfect, but we strive and we try to do the right thing in all cases. We're home builders. We're not investors. We're not money people. We're home builders, essentially. 98% of what we do is home building. Now, we've diversified over the past several years. We're building high-rise towers in Manhattan, which we never did before when I started with the company. We're doing apartments now. But essentially, we're still home builders. We're suburban rural home builders. That's in Connecticut, that's been really our experience. We've never done an inner city development. It's always been in towns like Woodbridge. It's been subdivisions. It's been active adult communities. That's our bread and butter. That's what we know. And I think that works to our advantage as well as your advantage, given that experience, in that I think we know how to plan, how to develop, how to build, how to sell communities in these suburban rural environments. And that's what we've tried to do here in our preliminary planning, is tailor the planning for this development, potential development, to fit in with the rural character of Woodbridge. And I think we're off to a good start with regard to that. We're a national company. We've won a lot of awards by Builder Magazine, Professional Builder. Go ahead, Eric. As I say, in the last 10 years, we've really diversified, but it's all residential development, active adult, empty nester type communities, urban redevelopment, urban infill condo, In the southeast and southwest, we've done country clubs and golf course communities. And as I said, in New York City, especially in Manhattan, we've gotten into high-rise condominium, for-sale condominium apartments. Go ahead, Eric. We're nationwide. We're on the New York Stock Exchange. We trade under the symbol TOL, toll. We're in 19 states currently, 50 different markets, primarily in the Northeast corridor from Boston down to the Washington, D.C. area. We're in Florida, Texas, and California, and Washington State, as you can see, and a few Midwestern states. So we're quite diversified. Currently, we have 11 active communities in Connecticut. Active means we're actively selling and building, all the way from, if you can see number one there, in Danbury. We're selling and building a master plan community in Danbury, Connecticut, all the way to 11 down. It's a subdivision down in Mystic, and we're up in Avon and Glastonbury in the Hartford area, and then we have several communities along the I-84 corridor. We've won many awards from the Home Builders Association in Connecticut. There's some of them. Go ahead, Eric. Okay. So we're excited about this proposal. We think it makes sense, but we're here to answer your questions, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask one preliminary question and then open it up to the board members, because I don't think I saw on the plans that you showed, what would the means of ingress and egress to the community be? I know there's concern about traffic on the roads in the area of the country club, and how would you address that?
All of the residents would come into and out of the property off of Johnson Road.
Johnson Road?
Excuse me, misspoke. All of the residents would come into and out of the property from Ansonia Road. There would be a gated emergency access on Johnson Road for use only by the fire department. No residents would come out on Johnson Road. It would all be on Ansonia Road.
And with that,
Gated means that the public can't go in and out, but it's an emergency access, so the fire trucks, if they have to access it, they can knock the gate down.
okay, thank you. I'll open up to questions. Anyone? I'll continue with mine if nobody has questions. You mentioned people from Woodbridge moving to these homes. What would you anticipate, if you know, the number of Woodbridge residents that would be relocating as opposed to residents coming from other towns? I assume you have some kind of projection about that?
Our projections estimate that we would sell approximately 25 homes a year here, and that about a third of them, maybe a little bit more, would be from the town of Woodbridge. Another third would likely be from the surrounding towns, the immediate surrounding towns, and the other third, if it's similar to our existing active adult communities throughout the state, would be people from elsewhere in the state or elsewhere in the country who are drawn to Woodbridge because of children.
Okay. You also mentioned that the buffer would be at least one golf hole. Could you explain that?
Sure.
What?
So the existing golf, is this going to work?
That's okay. Yeah, that's good.
The existing golf course has these holes along Ansonia, Johnson, and the existing homes to the south. that we would not touch with our development. So they could remain golf holes under the 9-hole scenario, or they could become town-owned open space with walking trails. But in either scenario, we would not develop any of these holes, nor would we knock down any of the trees surrounding these holes, and in fact, we would add existing buffer trees where there are holes that you can currently see through from Johnson Road.
You also talked about utilities. Can you speak a little bit more about the utilities you would bring to the site and what opportunities neighbors would have to benefit from that?
Sure. This site would be public water, public sewer, and natural gas. I believe water and sewer are currently in the existing clubhouse. Gas is off the site quite a ways. I actually don't have that exact information with me. But we would bring the natural gas to the property, and other neighbors could tie into that gas. They'd have to work with the gas company, but we would pay the full expense of bringing that gas up the road to the property.
I'm going to ask one other question. I have quite a few, but I could not see on your map how you got from, I believe it was hole 5 to hole 6 without going over the town pool.
That's a problem.
Maybe they could put that slide back up.
Yeah, can you get,
How best to- So as you're playing hole 5 on sheet, pass out.
oh, we said the wrong one.
It might have been 8 to 9, maybe.
Oh, it was this one.
Here on Johnson.
Good, because I wasn't gonna find it. Thank you. Oh, that's the part.
You have a little
Thank
bit of
you.
a walk.
Okay, thank you. This is why they invented golf carts.
I'm not a golfer, and I'm assured by my golfing friends that it's doable.
Yes.
I see. Thank you.
It's a
Thank you.
triathlon, there's a swimming portion.
I see. I see.
No, I think there's a pond there that, in the small map looks, might have been a pool. So it's the pond that's there that she sees her wrapping around.
Right. Yeah, as you're playing hole 5, you're essentially going counterclockwise, and you would have to walk to the start of hole 6, which is just east of the existing pond.
Right.
Are there any other questions from board members? There's no question from the public. This is a special meeting. We will have subsequent meetings where there'll be ample opportunity. This is a special meeting where we cannot amend the agenda.
I had a couple.
Susan?
So for clarification, the plan that you're proposing where you would demolish the golf club and do all of that and create the 9-hole golf course for a reduction in price, but it's still the same number of homes.
Correct.
So in lieu of a 9-hole golf course, that open space becomes the trails and remains as open space. Okay.
Yes, in the first scenario where we don't do the 9-hole golf course, we would build trails using the existing cart paths as a guide throughout the property, and it would be expected that those would be open to the entire town of Woodbridge.
Okay. And do you have studies that talk about the impact of the development of this kind of density housing on housing values in the community, more broadly speaking? Do you know?
I don't. Although anecdotally, I'm not aware of any of our developments doing anything but increase the neighboring house values.
Okay.
I don't have statistical evidence to show that.
Okay, and do you use local realtors to market the properties, or do you have an in-house?
We have in-house employees, Connecticut residents, local employees,
Who
but
market
they
the
work for
property.
Toll Brothers directly.
Well, and they're licensed, they're
Uh-huh.
employees and they're licensed, but we absolutely work very closely with the local brokers and realtors, and we have a lot of good programs for them, I'll put it that way, and they love us. So we work very closely with them. We encourage them to bring us customers. They're rewarded financially. We just have a lot of good programs for them. We think they're very important to the sales effort.
And just one other clarification to build on what Ellen was saying, when you say a buffer of the golf hole, you don't mean a fairway, you mean just the existence of the golf hole, right? You don't mean a fairways buffer. If a fairway is 250 yards, that's not the buffer.
The width.
It's
Right,
a
the
width.
yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, that's what I understood you to say, I just wanted to make sure.
But I
sure
just
I'll-
wanted to make it clear to everyone that if one were to go out to the golf course today and look at the existing holes that front on Johnson and Ansonia Road,
Uh-huh,
they can take comfort knowing that that hole and the trees on both sides of that hole will not be touched.
it's still the buffer.
Yes.
I'm sure I'll have more, but that's all for now, thank you.
What else? Tony?
Okay, I'll start with a few. To follow up Ellen's question, the first question about how many homes would, in your estimate, come from Woodbridge residents? I think you said a third, is that right? So, quick math, 55 to 60 of those 170 units would come from Woodbridge residents. So my point being, then it's always been a little unclear to me of how you figure, even though it's age-restricted homes, that you're not bringing in young families. Because now there's 55 or 60 existing Woodbridge homes that are typically larger, family-style homes that the older residents are moving out of, that are now becoming available for sale, adding to our inventory. So I don't know do you have some kind of statistical way of showing what that does to, again, I'm assuming if we're opening up 55 or 60 homes, and I realize it doesn't happen overnight,
Right?
but as the town residents move from these larger homes to your units,
Kids move in.
kids move into the older homes.
Right.
Typically, families are going to be moving because they're
Right.
larger homes, and do you have any type of statistical?
I don't have any statistical answers to that, except to say that those people would move anyway. Now they're moving within the town instead of moving to an active adult community outside of the town of Woodbridge. But
So-
they would move anyway.
So it's not the attraction of your units, you're saying they're moving regardless based on age or mobility?
They're moving to a lifestyle community that meets their needs. We'd like to keep them in the town of Woodbridge, but whether or not they move into Woodbridge or into a neighboring town, they'll likely put their home on the market.
We have seen that, and this is anecdotal, that in a town like Woodbridge, I'll go to Ridgefield where we did 71 age-restricted homes. A lot of those people, a lot of those Ridgefield residents wanted to stay in Ridgefield. They really felt it important that they stay in Ridgefield, but if we weren't there, they were ready to move elsewhere. But they were happy and glad that we were there and they were able to stay in Ridgefield. That it was important to them.
Okay.
Not all of them, but
Yeah, I
a
understand.
good percentage of them.
So to follow up with that, I was thinking about how you started the presentation, and clearly we're an older town compared to the state and the county. Wouldn't a community like this actually raise our age level? I mean, for example, when we have Emeritus and Coachman Square that opened, since they've opened, we've gotten older because now there is a place for older residents to stay. So you're keeping your older residents, not reducing your age. So typically, wouldn't that mean we'd become an older town? I know that it happened to Southbury, or was it Southbury that has all the age-restricted homes. So would you expect that, again, saying that the other families would have moved out anyways, and the new homes that open up, are you expecting that to increase the age of our town? Wouldn't that progress?
That's a good question. I hadn't thought about it from that side. However, having an older town, I don't think is a negative, as long as you provide for them. And if you provide housing that they need, they're very valuable members of the community. They donate their time, they volunteer. So I'm not sure having an aging community is in itself a negative.
Right.
It's probably a positive, as long as they're happy.
Yeah, so the start of your presentation going with the age was to say that here's a way, in your opinion, that
To
we
meet
can
the
keep
needs.
more of that community. Okay. Going on a little bit further, in either scenario, where we have the 9-hole golf course or we have open space trails, the town itself would own and maintain the property that that area is on. That we would maintain the golf course, we would own the golf course, or we would maintain and own the trails, that acreage is still ours.
Correct.
Okay. So how many acres, I know you said something about basically one home or one unit per acre, but I think that was based on the total acreage of the golf course. How many acres are just the homes and detached and attached? How many acres is the actual homes on it?
It's, let's see, 155 acres. 85 would remain as either open space or the
Okay,
golf
so
course, so
70
70 acres
were the 170
would
units
be owned by the
proposed?
homeowners association.
Okay. And the other acreage is basically ours to still decide what to do with based on your plan? Okay. I'm going to let someone else go, and I have a few others for later.
Go ahead, Joe.
So following that up on the rendering over there, the 70 acres is primarily where the cluster single-family homes and then the attached carriage houses are. Everything else would be owned by the town.
Correct.
Okay. So, all right. I note in your proposal, under terms, subject to development approvals, what's the implication in zoning here?
The implication meaning,
Well, I think it's zoned residential A, which is an acre and a half. So how do you guys, what do you, how do you view that with this proposal?
well, we followed the RFP, which stated that the town would develop a zone suitable for whatever was selected, or suggested that the town develop a zone suitable for what was suggested.
Okay,
So, as I understand it, there's not currently a zone for this property that contemplates what we're proposing.
that's correct.
It would have to be created.
Okay, all right, that's what I was wondering, okay, so. So we'd have to change the zone. The town would have to change the zone here to allow for this
Sure.
development, okay.
Lawrence?
Is this your last offer?
Yes.
No further questions? On page 19 of your presentation, you describe the wide variety of homes that Toll Brothers provides. And my presumption is that your proposal qualifies for several of these. But I'm, even when it was on the wall here, the suburban high density characterization got my attention. Does your proposal qualify? Is that
It
what?
does not. Suburban high density would be something along the lines of mid-rise elevator condominium apartment buildings.
And
Just by way of, I mean, I've done high density. High density is 25 units to the acre. This is not even close to that. So that, in development parlance, that's what we would all think of as high density. 20 units to the acre, 25, something like that.
and there's no middle ground?
Middle ground between high density and what we're proposing? Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Real quick, I think I have the,
Go ahead, follow.
maybe the opposite question. Was there any consideration to a development that complied with existing zoning there?
There was not by us.
I just wondered if you could elaborate a little bit on how you came to the prices of the homes, because it's starting at $350 and up. It seems a little up high to me, but maybe you could elaborate a little bit on how you got that.
We've done market research of the town of Woodbridge, the surrounding towns, some existing housing developments that we would see as competition. and that's how we arrived at the price.
The market right now, I don't know, I'm not a realtor, seems to me to be glutted with houses for sale. Maybe not, that's just my thought, and I just wondered, are you flexible on that cost, or the, we want to encourage folks to stay in Woodbridge and,
Understood.
you know.
We feel that pricing is appropriate. That pricing works in our pro forma that allows us to pay the purchase price we proposed. If it was important to the town to have lower priced housing, more important than a higher purchase price for the land, that's something we'd certainly be willing to discuss.
Okay, all right, thank you.
To follow up Beth's question, I think many of the residents are gonna feel that they'll be lucky to get between $450 and $550 for their much larger homes and acreage. So the selling point for you to try to get them to sell and basically pay more to go into a smaller is that you keep all your facilities with the first floor being where the master bedroom is, and basically it's just the entire community you're saying is built based on an elderly community, so that everything is more accessible, easier to move around.
Everything's accessible, low maintenance. The homeowners association takes care of the snow removal. They mow the lawn. They do the mulch.
Kind of like condo living, let's call it. And you feel that that selling point helps, even if someone has to make that decision to sell their home for less money and basically pay more money to go into a smaller unit.
Yes, our experience has shown that.
They're making a lifestyle choice.
Yeah, as Greg mentioned, it's not just
They
the
don't want to
house.
mow the grass, and they don't want to paint the outside of the house, and they don't want to shovel the snow, and they want to meet new friends. So
Can you tell me, because I had a hard time trying to figure it out, the highest point of any of the units as far as how are we getting, basically I realize some were second floors. So can you tell me what the highest point of these homes, or the, maybe it's the attached units that have the highest?
35.
The square footage of the project.
Just the highest point, the height of the structure.
35.
I would guess the peak would be approximately 35, although in most zoning regulations, I apologize, I'm not familiar with yours, usually the roof is measured to the midline of the roof, in which case it would be closer to 30.
Maybe 32. Yeah.
Thank you.
But it should be more than 35.
Either based on page 21 of your map, which just sort of shows where communities are in Connecticut or elsewhere in the region, which of these would you say is most similar to your proposal here? If you can answer that.
I'm not sure there's an exact match. There are communities we're building that would be at a similar price point. There's communities we're building that would be with similar homes. And there's communities we're building that would have similar amenities. But I'm not sure there's one that's the perfect match.
Anywhere in the region other than Connecticut? No, I'm not looking for a perfect match.
I mean,
But if I wanted to get in the,
Danbury.
if I wanted to get in the car and go for a ride,
Yeah,
where would I
Danbury
go?
and Bethel would be, we're doing those two developments, I think, somewhat mimics what we're talking about here. They don't have the single-family component that we're proposing here, but they do have the carriage component.
Well, Danbury being a bigger city with more diverse neighborhoods and more diverse areas, Bethel, I would think, would be,
Bethel may be the
Bethel,
size-wise.
Yeah.
and is that on a golf course?
It's not.
Are any of these on a golf course?
They are not.
Is there anywhere in the region where it's on a golf course? Massachusetts, Rhode Island?
Jersey,
Where in New Jersey?
a bunch of them. I have to get you some literature, but there's several golf courses.
I love crossing that Tappan Zee Bridge. Get us those names. Thank you.
Monroe Township, maybe?
Uh-huh.
We could get that for you.
I suppose I could look it up online if I
Yeah,
wanted to, right?
absolutely.
So along those lines, your golf division concluded that neither 9 or 18 hole is economically viable here. So I presume therefore that, although I know you guys throughout the country do these golf courses, you guys aren't interested in owning the golf course, right? So, but
did you say? Doing what?
they're not interested in owning any golf course here because,
We are not interested in owning a golf course here. We've spoken with a few people. If the town did not want to own it, we have some relationships where we may be able to partner you up with someone who would be happy to own it and operate it.
that was my question, all because I know you have those relationships, but why would they do that if you guys have determined it's economically not viable?
It's not economically viable for us
For you
with our
guys.
infrastructure. We
Okay.
have a lot of golf experts in our company, but they tend to be down south.
Right.
We just don't have the personnel up
Yeah,
here.
Okay.
we don't develop golf course communities in the Northeast or the, the Midwest. They all are in the South, so.
So I guess really, you're not saying it's economically not viable per se, it's just not viable for you guys.
Correct.
In
Really
this general region of the country.
Okay.
And we don't have the expertise, like Jack said, our golf course experts are down south. They we don't know how to run a golf
Right,
course.
right.
We've never done it, so
That you make that, then you're the same as us, because we don't know how to run it either.
there you go.
You described one of the differences between this proposal and the 2011 proposal. This involves all cash at closing. It reads right here on your slide 17. So my presumption, I guess, is that if all cash transaction is at closing, you're going to want to get to town and get busy building. So what's your projection in terms of a timetable?
For closing or after
No,
closing?
after closing. What, to Tony's point about houses coming on the market overnight or
Right.
whatnot.
We anticipate building approximately 25 a year, so 7 years from start to finish.
But an important part of our business model is we don't build on spec. We will not close on the property and just start building houses willy-nilly. We build on contract, which means that we have a customer who comes to us and says, I want to sign a contract, I want you to build my home, I'm ready to go. And they pick the type of home they want and the options, so we semi-customize it for them. But we're not building the point is we're not building a whole series of homes and then trying to go out and sell them. We're selling them and then building the homes.
Thank you, that's helpful.
You build a model
We will build a model, we'll probably build maybe 2 or 3.
of each, and then you sell off the model.
Yeah, at the
Right.
end, we'd sell it off.
But you make your sales off from that model, that you put the
Correct.
model there so people.
And we have a design studio in Danbury where our buyers go to make their selections. It's 7,000 square feet. It's similar to a bath showroom that an independent company would have, but it's all of our upgrades and all of our colors that people can choose from so that they end up with a home that's really customized to them.
So $7.5 million for this, and with 170 homes. I know you haven't looked at any development option that complies with the current zoning, or the zoning in Woodbridge, but would there be an option that we could see for less homes, for less money? Or are you guys just, I guess
I
this is
think
your
we
final offer?
I think we suggested that, Jack suggested that in the presentation, that
The 100 home plan, which was page 16, which I don't believe you've seen before, would be 4.25 million. Now, are you asking something less than that?
No, I guess I missed that, but that's when, I guess that's out there, and then I guess I would ask, is there anything less than, I mean, at some point in time, it's a numbers game, so you guys want to make money.
Right.
So, and for us, we might want to look at certain other options, so is there,
it would be
Is there an option
difficult
fee-
for us to go below
Below that.
100.
okay.
That we lose certain economies of scale with bringing
I
utilities
understand.
to the site and the clubhouse and.
Sure, I understand, I just wanted to cover that.
Right.
I do have one more question, if that's all right. So, to the point about how you phase in the building, I'm buyer number one, let's say. Am I not gonna see the amenities and all the roads finished till the end of 7 years? Or do you do the infrastructure, the roads and the amenities at the beginning so that buyer number one has the enjoyment of all of those amenities going forward, no matter how long it takes you to build beyond that?
So-
It's not, go ahead.
We often phase the infrastructure, the roads, so that there's not a ton of unnecessary road sitting there that needs to be maintained and plowed and so forth. So we'll build it in sections. The amenities, we think, are a very important component to marketing our community.
So that goes first.
Now, it may not be right off the bat, but it's definitely front-loaded so that we get the marketing benefit of having those. We don't want to do it too early. It may not be on day one because there are costs
Correct.
with maintaining
No, I
them and
understand.
operating them.
Right.
And if you're the only
It's
person
sooner
living
than
there.
later. It's sooner than later, put it that
Nothing
way.
like a precise timetable. Thank you.
A couple more, going on what Lawrence was asking you about the approximate, and I think you said 25 to be built a year. In your presentation, you talked about possibly $2 million of taxes for the town, but obviously that wouldn't be somewhere maybe 10 years from now, from when we're maxed out of units. Two questions to that point. What typically, and I understand you have to go through zoning, you have to go through many loops and jumps, typically from the day you purchase a property, how long is it taking you to build the first unit?
It depends on the complexity of the infrastructure and the amount of rock, but I would say a year or less.
A year or less, okay? And that
It's
being...
usually less than a year.
Usually less than a year.
We think it's important, I mean, if we laid our cash out to you, we've closed on the property.
Right. That's on one...
Now we got money in the ground, we want to get going. So yes, we try and start right away and build the models as soon as possible and, get the infrastructure going. So it wouldn't be more than a year, and it certainly probably would be less.
Okay. And then my last question about the age-restricted, assuming that all, and I'm just using the 170 units because that's what the screen was, the presentation was based on. Assuming all 170 were age-restricted and we reach at one point close to maximum, you're never going to have 100% of units filled, I'm sure. Obviously, you're in an age-restricted group, so I'm assuming the turnover is a little quicker. What do you find is the average turnover of these units or homes? Because you have an elderly community in them, do you find it to be 10 years, 15, 5? Is there...
We haven't
look at
found the
that?
turnover to be faster than our non-age restricted communities. The buyers that choose these homes, they tend to be, on the lower end of the 55-plus range. And they plan on being there for quite a while. I don't have any statistics, but we don't see a tremendous amount of turnover.
I just one other thing that popped in my head. During the building time, if you say it's over 7 years, are people going to be who are living there? Let's say the first 25 houses go in. How do you regulate sort of so the earlier settlers, as it were, don't have 7 years or 6 years of construction going on?
Right.
I mean, that would just.
Right. So when we open,
What do you do to mitigate that a little bit?
when we open for sale, we open certain sections of the community for sale at once, so that we don't build this house here and this house here and this house here, and people are living in a construction zone for 7 years. That wouldn't work for anybody. So we'll open up these homes over here, build them out, complete it, top coat the road, landscape it, then we'll move on to the next section, so that people have neighbors and some sense of community.
We also try, where we can, if physically possible, to create a construction vehicle entrance so that, construction vehicles are not going through the developed portions of
Yeah,
the
it's
property,
also
where
in-
we can.
It's also in a neighborhood, an existing neighborhood, so
Right.
that has to be considered
Right,
as
right,
well.
right.
Okay, thanks. Anything else?
No?
I guess, will we talk to these folks again? I'm just thinking of that.
So next, we're going to talk about next steps.
Okay.
But anything else for?
No.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very informative.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're at item number 4, which is next steps. And I think it's...
for this?
You can, yes. But you can't speak. Your speaking time is over. Clearly, it's very important to have this proposal explained, vetted, give the public opportunity to ask questions. And I've identified at least 4 commissions that I think would be good referrals for the proposal. And I'm hoping that at those commission meetings, the chairs will invite Toll, and Toll will come to make the presentation. I know Tony and I have discussed this, and Tony explained how useful that procedure was with respect to the Public Works Garage, that it's a very good way to get information out broadly to the public. In addition, we will have public meetings, community conversations like we had before. And we can invite Toll back to the Board of Selectmen at any time. I'm sure they'd be willing to come if there are more questions and answer those. So I'm very open to plentiful and very open next steps. And I'd like to suggest the commissions that I've identified are CCW, Conservation, CUPAP, and probably Human Services. I think people have made the point about services that this group might want, and there's been discussion at Human Services about more baby boomer type activity. So I don't know if anybody has thoughts about others. You don't have to tell me tonight, but
I might add one.
sure. Go ahead.
No?
You don't have to.
No, I have an idea that the Recreation Commission might like to consider this.
That's, yep, absolutely. So what I will do is I'll check the schedules of these commissions and see where it works best to keep this moving and send it to the next commission. We'll keep you informed of that, and of course the board will know, and the public will be invited to those meetings as preliminary steps.
So can I just ask, and I do think all those commissions are fine, and I'm glad Lawrence suggested recreation, but I'm assuming at those, while they're figuring scheduling to come to those commissions, you're not going to have public questions at that time either. So I guess I'm asking, scheduling-wise, when would be the first time the public has an opportunity to ask their questions?
Right.
After they meet with the 5 or whatever may be commissions?
Well, that's a good question. It was my understanding that some of the commissions have a public hearing with presentation and do allow
Oh, so
question
you're-
and answer, but I will definitely look into that, and if it's going to delay unduly a public conversation with question and answer, we'll definitely schedule,
Oh,
we'll start scheduling as soon as we can.
We can do things in parallel.
We can indeed.
Okay.
I just think it's important to, for everybody to have myriad opportunities to look at the plan, ask their questions, and be sure that we have at least a townwide understanding of what the plan is, and then we can hear how people feel about it.
Do you have a time frame for that?
I don't know. I'll check with the commissions and see what the schedule looks like. I think what's very important, as I said before, is not rushing, but moving as expeditiously as possible. You know, we'd like to deal with the country club. It's certainly a large budget item for us, and I think we should move as quickly as we can, but consistent with public input and public information. Anything else from the board? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.